to the first podcast special of the season. My name's Giles, and with me tonight we've got our old friend, old-time podcaster Moh Geoff. How are you, Mo?
Not too bad. Glad to be back.
Good man, good man. And we've also got the granddaddy of them all, Mr. Geoff Arsenal. How are you, Geoff?
I'm very well, thank you. Good evening, guys.
Good evening all. All right, well, people will be wondering what it's all about. We've built it up to a crescendo. This is like the Manny Pacquiao and Mayweather of Arsenal online media. So, where did it all start from, Mo?
Oh, well, basically, I had the pleasure of bumping into Julian Draxler recently, and I spoke to him and asked him kind of the three key questions that I'm sure any Arsenal fan would have asked him had they had the opportunity to. And off the back of that, I've had this one serial tweeter to me who shouts as loud as he can on Twitter. And when I actually say to him, look, any concerns you've got with my opinions or any disagreements you have with my views, let's put it on a podcast, let's put it on Arsenal Fan TV. So instead of me dealing with each person that disagrees with me individually, I'll do it once and for all and make an example of someone. And even though he claims that he's a lawyer and that I should be running scared, when it actually came down to it, he had his balls shrunk, to put it mildly. So, that same person got in touch with me again, and I called him out and I said, wait a minute, aren't you that keyboard warrior lawyer coward that bottled the chance to debate with me? And then in that conversation, Geoff got involved because I said, nobody has the courage to actually go toe-to-toe with me. And Geoff kindly volunteered, and I quote, he tweeted me saying, I'll have it when you want. And credit to Geoff, he has stayed true to his word. I wanted it on Wednesday the 24th on the AFTV podcast, and here he is. So, well played, Geoff.
Yeah, your pleasure, mate. When I see stuff like that, Mo, you're more or less calling on anybody to come and have a little dust up with you, or a debate, whatever you want to call it. So I thought, well, let's have a go.
Great, good stuff. No, I'm finally glad someone's followed up their words with action. Was that you barking, Geoff?
Okay, all right. So tell us about You Spend We Spend, Mo, because it was it was a campaign started and promoted by yourself. You came in for a lot of praise and criticism. How do you think it went? And then Geoff can come in and give his opinion on the You Spend We Spend campaign.
Sure. So what I'll start off and say is that there was a superb amount of support for it and praise for it, and there was also a hell of a lot of disagreements with it, some of it respectful, which I appreciated, some of it disrespectful, which, I will always challenge with, not with exactly with politeness. If you're going to approach me in a disrespectful way, then don't expect anything off of me, basically. I won't go to some of the dirty depths that some people with, but I'm not exactly going to be polite to you at that point. But, some people did approach it kindly, so thank you to them. Constructive criticism is always good. In terms of You Spend We Spend, I fully stand by it to this day. I really, really believe, and it's easy with hindsight, but the transfer window basically proves that Arsenal didn't do what was necessary or what was required of them in terms of putting us in a position to be competing in all competitions with the aim of winning all competitions. We have massive gaps in our squad, and we have a massive pile of cash in the bank. For me, as a football club, them two things shouldn't exist together. If you have a massive pile of cash in the bank, you shouldn't have any gaps in the squad. If you have gaps in the squad, it should be because you don't have the cash in the bank to fill them gaps. Football clubs exist to win trophies, and I feel as though we need to get back to that mentality. The You Spend We Spend was set up long, long ago with the foresight of the eventuality that has taken place. And, for me, whatever opinion I have, I never ever want to be proved right if it's to the detriment of Arsenal. And an example of that is Danny Welbeck. I personally don't see him being the man that we need to lead the line, but I am absolutely desperate to be proved wrong. I want people coming back to me and slating me for it. Just how I'm sure people slate Geoff for his opinions on Aaron Ramsey and some of the tweets that he's put out about Aaron Ramsey. Ultimately, I'm sure Geoff is delighted that Aaron Ramsey is excelling now. So, in terms of was You Spend We Spend the right thing to do? Absolutely yes. Did I go about it in the right way? There'd definitely be some things that I would change. And was it a success? No, it wasn't a success, because ultimately the club failed to do what we needed them to do. Also, the scale that I wanted You Spend We Spend to reach was tens of thousands, and unfortunately it only went into thousands. So it was never big enough to make a difference. But all big things start with small ideas, and the fear of failure wasn't enough of a fear for me to not do anything about it at all. I don't want to be one of the masses of people that were bitching and moaning in hindsight after the transfer window closed, and that will continue to bitch and moan throughout the whole of the season when they see us lose to bigger teams because we don't have a central defensive midfielder, or when we don't convert that gilt-edged chance, such as the one that the two that Welbeck had in Dortmund. You know, people will bitch and moan for the rest of the season, and I've done all of my efforts. You know, I'm not going to join in with the bitching and the moaning. I'll accept Arteta for his strengths and his flaws, as I will with Bramini and as I will with Welbeck, because I tried to do what I could do before the event happened. There's my piece on that.
Mo, you know, the problem I have is this a lot of opinions and assumptions. There's nothing really that's in there that's concrete facts. And the problem I had at the time with your you spend, we spend malarkey was, it was on the last game of the season, last home game of the season, if I'm right, and it was a few weeks away from an FA Cup final. Now, in my day, what I would have thought would have been the best thing was to encourage the lads on the last day, last home game of the season, give them a good send-off, give them loads of encouragement and confidence to go on to that cup final and win the FA Cup. Because ultimately, what you was trying to do is you're trying to make the club spend money to win trophies and championships. But the ironic thing is, you wanted to leave us in a position where the players on the pitch and the directors in the stands, if it would have come off your you spend, we spend, you know, and there would have been 25,000 people there holding up these placards. No, we're 2 weeks away from a cup final. What on earth was you thinking?
Geoff, do you honestly think that these placards being shown for 30 seconds before kickoff and not a second during the game, 2 weeks before an FA Cup final, would have actually had any impact on the performance of the team during the 90 minutes against Hull?
Well, you must be incredibly naive if you don't think it would have made any impact at all.
So you're telling me, on a player-by-player basis, there'd be someone like Aaron Ramsey looking at these placards 30 seconds before kickoff, and that view that he had affecting him on FA Cup final day?
It's the negativity it creates around the football club, inside the stadium, on a match day, 2 weeks before an FA Cup final. The irony of it is just incredible. And I mean, you know, as if they're really, the club are really going to take any notice of you and your 40 or 50 people that might have held up I can't even remember. You know what, to be honest with you, I couldn't see any. Right?
Yeah, no, nor could I, Geoff. You know, there's no disputing that. I'm not the sort of person that's going to try and, just in a stupid way, try and claim that it was a success. I wasn't happy with it. There wasn't enough. But the fact of the matter is, Geoff, I think that if you are, you're saying that I'm naive for thinking, for the irony of, you know, but what you're basically
can't you see the irony of it? Because you're wanting us to do so. Okay, let me explain it to you.
I do understand your point, but I don't agree with you. So it's not a case of understanding, it's a case of agreement. And I don't think that 30 seconds before a game, 2 weeks before an FA Cup final, puts the FA Cup final in jeopardy. I do not think so. If you think that is the case, then the questions also need to be asked of the professional footballers that Arsenal Football Club employs. Because if that is going to put them off an FA Cup final, they need to be working to a higher professional standard.
But it's the negativity it creates. Can you not see that? You know, you went there, you didn't know how many people was going to get involved. You was hopeful that it was going to be thousands involved. That thankfully there wasn't. But you was hoping there was. So if it came off and there was a few thousand that was involved, TalkSport would have picked up on it. All the newspapers would have picked up on it. They love an Arsenal bashing anyway, right? Yeah. You're doing this 2 weeks before a cup final. It's just, it's absolutely crazy. And all it does, right, for me personally, it seems like it was just, you at the time was a self-promoting attention seeker, because any proper Arsenal supporter, okay, in my opinion, right, you know, everyone's got different opinions on Arsenal fans. I get that. I understand that, right? But me, I'm old school. I've been there since 1971 and I've seen a hell of a lot go on. I've seen Arsenal when we was really, really, really poor. finishing 17th in the league and battling away for 9th and 10th, Mo. You know, and maybe that's why I'm a little bit softer on what's happened over the last 5 or 7 years, because I've seen the really, really bad times, and a lot of the younger group, it's not their fault that they was born a lot later than me. They haven't seen them hard times. They've seen these Wenger years, but I just don't get how, you know, there could be any positivity coming out of a protest at the stadium, right, on the last home game of the season, 2 weeks before a cup final.
All right, Jeff, you know, let me put it to you another way. For me to execute this, to get the sort of exposure that it needed to get to be successful, Arsenal Fan TV was my only option. You know, I don't get an audience from the TV. You know, that is the place where it will get the most exposure possible. And the audience that we needed to take notice of this is not the players, it's the board, it's the directors. Now you tell me, other than a match day at our home ground, where would fans other than that ever get the eyes of the directors on them?
Mo, the board of Kroenke and Wenger said that they will spend the money when the right players become available.
Sure.
No one ever said that I wasn't going to spend any money. That's where the problem lies. That's why, you know, we'd had a Twitter conversation during that time. You was promoting it, and I said, Mo, you know, they are going to spend anyway. The window's closed at the moment. They can't spend anything now. This is not the right time to do this. Well, let's do it at the end of next summer, i.e. right now, if we really haven't spent any money.
But Jeff, you know, that's the point. We're talking about the right time to do this. And I've asked you a question that you haven't just answered then, because I've asked you, when else do the fans have an audience of the directors? When else do they have the directors' eyes on them to communicate with them?
Well, you know, there's all different ways of doing it, but that is definitely not the way to promote a protest. It's just protest inside the stadium. Why do you got to do it inside the stadium? I'm
going to push you on this then. So how else can I contact Stan Kroenke? How else can I contact even Gazidis?
Well, I don't know. You've got a right to Arsenal. You maybe have the protest outside like other fan groups have. You
just said to me that there's different ways to do that. Do you think, honestly, if I tried to arrange this protest, actually, no, I'm not going to say protest. It wasn't a bloody protest. It was communication, because the event hadn't occurred yet.
No, it was a protest.
Jeff, if you're doing what was I protesting about then? But we'll go on to that bit later, actually. But for now, if I said to fans, take a Saturday out when there's not a match, on a non-match day Saturday, and come to the stadium, how many people do you reckon would have came?
I've no idea. No idea.
7?
I've no idea. Nor do you, Mo. You know.
Yeah, but I have a very educated guess that not many people would have come. It had to be done.
Well, if they wanted to, if they was believing in it, they would have turned up. If you believe in something so strongly, why do we go and worship Arsenal? Why do 60,000 people go to the stadium every single week? Because we worship Arsenal, we believe in them, and we go there.
Yeah, because even Gazidis wouldn't have been there. Because Arsene Wenger wouldn't have been there. Because Stan Kroenke wouldn't have been there. Sir Chips wouldn't have been there. You know, they had to be there to witness it. If that spectacle had come off, just how the Coventry fans did when they came to our place, if the spectacle had come off, they would have been there to have seen it. If I would have done it any other time, they wouldn't have been there to have seen it. The people that needed to see it in order to action change were the execs, were the directors. And if they're not there, there's no point doing it. So I couldn't have done it at any other time. What I wanted to do was to do it before the transfer window, because I didn't want to bitch and moan afterwards. This was the last home game of the season. It was the only time where it could have been done. I was most certainly not going to do it in an FA Cup final.
Ultimately, Mo, at the end of the day, whenever everything's cut and dried, they didn't see it anyway because nobody turned up to voice their opinion.
Sure, but that's a separate discussion. We're talking about the timing of it. You've asked me why I did it then. Why 2 weeks before an FA Cup final? And that is my answer.
Okay, then why did you do it anyway?
Okay, so on the why did I do it then? I've answered that, and there is no better time to have done it. I've answered all of your points on why I did it then. So that one's a tick. That's done.
No, of course it's not a tick. It's ridiculous.
Can I ask, Mo, what was your reasons for actually starting the campaign in the first place?
All right, but of course I'll answer that. But in terms of why I did it, when I did it, the timing of it, that I've answered, and as I said, is a tick. Because I've answered
don't you
about
think
the
it was
audio.
wrong? Don't you think it was wrong, though? Sorry to cut across you. Don't you think it was wrong, in hindsight, 2 weeks before a cup final? What would have happened if 20,000 people would have stood up? It's so negative. It is so negative.
Jeff, it's not negative at all, because what's negative is spend some effing money that happened instead. This was a brand new concept to the football fan. This was proactive. This was about communicating with the board. That's never been done before. You know, people only ever complain in hindsight. And, for me, it's a lesson that maybe the average football fan isn't really ready for that yet. To try and action change before things happen. You know, we're more reactive than we are proactive. But this was about being proactive. It was about communicating. For that reason, it had to be before the transfer window. It had to be at a home game. And it had to be before an FA Cup final. Because we were never, ever going to jeopardise that.
Jeff, can I ask you, if you were in Moh's position, what would you have done?
I wouldn't have done it. It's as simple as that. I have no interest. I've got 100% belief in the club and what they're doing. So why on earth would I do that 2 weeks before a cup final?
But if you were one of the many or the thousands that believed that Arsenal weren't doing as much as they could with the money, and you were hesitant in believing that, what would you have done to communicate that to the club?
The club, as you well know, Giles, because you remember the A.F.C., there are certain members of the A.F.C. that make it quite clear to get messages to the club. And I should imagine that Tim Payton, at least, would have definitely voiced his opinion to certain members of the club about, why are we not spending on this one, or, how much are we spending, and how much, when you see it all the time. Tim, God bless him, is always quoting about how much money's in the bank, etc., etc. The board are well aware at all times what the fans think. And it does make it, they do have an impact. But, Moh was asking for something that was already in place anyway. He just had to wait. The window wasn't open.
Let me ask you a question. In terms of the window not being open, that was intentional. I was aware of that, and it was because I wanted to do it proactively. I didn't want to complain. This wasn't a complaint. This was a communication. It wasn't a protest. Nothing had actually happened for me to protest. This was me saying before the worst case scenario occurs, this is me saying with a whole load of other fans that we will wait for you to act before we act. And there'll be a proportional reaction to how much ambition the club shows. I just asked you, Jeff, are you happy with Arsenal's squad currently?
Am I happy with Arsenal's squad currently? It's a difficult question, isn't it?
No, I don't think so.
Well, of course it is.
Can we win the Champions League?
I do. I think we can win the Champions League. I really do. You've got to have a lot of luck to win the Champions League. Chelsea won the Champions League a few years ago, and they was arsehole lucky to win it all the way through. Okay,
Jeff, are we the best placed team to win the Champions League? Are we the best?
You're asking me questions, Moh. You've got to remember, we said all this last season, and we were 7 points off of winning the league. If we would have had a Theo Walcott right the way throughout the season, 9 out of 10 people would say we'd have won that league last year. Things happen. This is football. You play it on grass, not on FIFA. Things happen throughout the season, and you never know what's going to happen. Football springs up surprises all over the place. Everyone was surprised that we was top of the table for that length of time that we stayed there last season.
Yet the bookies never put us as favourites for the league. And yet now we're not there. We're not there as a front runners. We're not Chelsea. We're not Man City. We're not fancied. Jeff, ultimately, I think the truth is most Arsenal fans, and when I say most, I'm talking about 99%, think we needed a central defensive midfielder, thinking we needed a world-class striker. I've asked you whether you're happy with the squad, and you've said, yeah, we can win the Champions League contingent on luck, and, it's fair enough, it's a logical response. But do you, what I'd ask, and let me phrase it in another way, who's better placed to win the Premier League right now, Arsenal or Chelsea?
Well, again, that's a toss-up, isn't it? It's all a matter of opinion, right?
What's your opinion?
In my Arsenal opinion, I think Chelsea are stronger than Arsenal, of course.
And why? Why is that? Why should Chelsea be stronger than Arsenal? Because I fully agree with you.
I'll tell you for why. because they've spent maybe £2 billion over the last 5 years assembling a team. And we're not at that stage. We are at that stage now where we can start spending good money, but we haven't been at that stage.
And Jeff, I completely accept that. And I'm sure you know, but just to remind you, I am a qualified accountant, and I have got every single set of statutory accounts that Arsenal have ever published in the last 10 years sitting in my flat. I go through them, and every single year I've made a judgment call about, are we really in a position, given the stadium, to actually be spending this money? And I made the decision, based on my own analysis, 1 year before Gazidis did, that we're now in a position where we've got that financial firepower. And, you know, it's understandable that the club are going to be a bit more prudent about taking that decision than a fan. So I made that decision 1 year earlier. But I never, ever complained about Arsenal's lack of spending, about finishing for the best part of 8 years because of the stadium move. I've only ever complained, and I only actioned you spend, we spend, because it's no longer a matter of opinion. The statutory accounts speak for themselves. It's now a matter of fact. Arsenal can afford to spend more. Arsenal could have afforded to have bought a central defensive midfielder. Arsenal could have afforded to bought a striker. And some people might say, oh, we only made, £4 million of profit. We've got a hell of a lot of retained profit in the form of cash in bank that we could have used to spend on that. Let's not forget what's preceded with all the player sales. So the reason I did use spend, we spend is an educated opinion or an educated bit of analysis when we finally were able to get in that position. I think that the stadium that we've built, the legacy that's been created is absolutely superb. I absolutely adore Arsene Wenger and what he's done for the club. But right now, we do not have the balance correctly leveled at the club in terms of finances and our desire to win trophies. We have money in the bank, and we have gaps in the squad. And unless you can tell me that that is not true, you spend, we spend was valid.
I don't see how it was valid, and I don't see why it was valid at that particular time. I mean, Arsenal as a club, they're lauded all over the world in world sports, not only in world football. I mean, I think Forbes had them at 11 or 12 as one of the best run sports teams, not football teams. I think we're 4 or 5 or 6 in football teams. Now, you've got 92 league clubs. I would bet 90 of those league clubs would swap positions with Arsenal today, as we speak. Maybe 91. I think Man City might even have a little go as well. And that's with all their money. Because what Arsenal have got now, they're self-sufficient, right? They've reached that £300 million barrier, and they can attract top world-class players because we have the infrastructure, we have the stadium, we have the fan base, and we also have a fantastic manager.
Jeff, you're talking to a sensible bloke here. There's no disputing that. We don't need to discuss that because there's absolutely no disputing that. What's up for dispute is whether we've struck the right balance between footballing ambition and financial ambition.
But there's a long pause. You're going to have to answer that question, Mo. You're the accountant. I don't know. I'm a mere corporate hospitality dealer.
Jeff, the answer when we've got that much money in
How much money have we got in the bank, Mo?
Right, do you know what? This sound in front of me is the statutory accounts.
Yeah.
So the year ended 31st of May 2014, and I'm on the balance sheet, and it says cash and short-term deposits 2014 207.8 million.
Okay, fair enough.
Yeah.
You do know that is when the season ticket renewals have just been paid, yeah? So
Yeah,
that is going to be the highest point of the season when we've got the money in. Okay? Sure. We went on after that period, right? We spent the best part of, or let's say we've contracted to spend the best part of 90 or 100 million pounds with the new players that have come in and their salaries. Yeah?
Yeah.
And you need running costs for the stadium, and the staff all the way through the 3 months of the summer when we haven't got no revenue coming in. We've got no match day revenue, right? Our biggest revenue is the match days. when we get £2 or £3 million or whatever it is, right? We haven't got that through the 3 months. So all of a sudden that £200 million has now gone down to £100 million, and we've still got to pay these boys for the next 3 months.
Sure.
It's so great dressing it up in the 31st of May, but you've got to look in the reality, right?
Jeff, in the reality, this doesn't include any Puma money, any of the shirt sales, and in reality, if you were to go and do an analysis of the FTSE 100 companies or FTSE 350 companies, whatever you want, and look at their cash balance as a percentage of their operating expenses, they would not be able to pay their operating expenses out of what's currently in their bank. Clubs don't need the ratio that maybe you think they do. Let me just talk it through for you. We have got 207.8 million of cash in the bank. Our operating expenses are 251 million for 2014. That's excluding player trading. We do not need to have that level of coverage. 80% of our operating expenses in 2014 we can pay from our current cash balance. You don't need that level of security. The match days that are going to be coming in, that is what generates our income, and that we will get throughout the season. That'll take care of the wages, that'll take care of a lot of the operating costs. Right now, if you were to look at Arsenal's cash flow forecast, we're not going to be in the red at any point. There will be a level that we can afford to spend, and also, in terms of spending this money, it doesn't all have to be upfront necessarily. It can be structured payments. Certain clubs, they might demand it to be upfront, and we can still afford to do that as well. The fact of the matter is, Jeff, we have got money and we have got gaps in the squad. That just cannot be argued. The only way that can be argued is if you think Arteta, Flamini and Welbeck are all good enough. If you think they are actually going to deliver a Champions League. I don't complain about not winning trophies. I complain about not using our resources effectively for footballing reasons. And I really struggle to see how anyone can argue with that, given the figures that I've just presented.
Who do you think is to blame in that case then, Mo, and what are your thoughts?
And Jeff, and this is where I will bow out of putting things down as fact, because whilst I'm a qualified accountant, and I look into statutory accounts and I can make my conclusions, I don't work for Arsenal. And the one thing that I'm looking forward to is Arsene Wenger's book. Because if he ever does a no-holds-barred book, then we'll find out what truly goes on at the club. Right now, I do not have a clue. I can't see the logic in Arsene Wenger not wanting to spend the money. And I don't know if it's him who's saying I don't want to, and I don't know if it's even Gazidis or Stan Kroenke. I really do not know. All I know is that right now, the right balance has not been struck. We are not showing the level of ambition that we should be as one of the world's leading football clubs. But I'll put the question back to you. Who do you think the blame lies with on this?
I don't think there is any blame to be laid at anyone's doormat, to be perfectly honest with you, Mo. I believe that we have started this season with a stronger squad than we did last season. We was only 7 points off last season, and hopefully, if we can keep our players fit for this season, we'll have a better run at it this season than we did last season. Because we missed pace up top last year. We've definitely got that in abundance now.
I find it strange with some of the comparisons that you make, Jeff, because you compared us to 90 or 91 Football League clubs. I don't compare to people that are below us. I compare us to whatever it takes to get to number one. That's the way I look at Arsenal Football Club. And secondly, I don't look at last season. I look at the current context. I don't really care what happened last season. There's that constant desire to improve. But the way football works, it's a competition. You have to be better than your competitors. And that is what I want us to do. Fair enough, we have improved since last year. I accept that. So if we go from 4th to 3rd, I'm sorry, mate, I'm still not happy. I want to win Champions Leagues. I want to win Premier Leagues.
So do I. But it's not possible. Liverpool want to win the Champions League. Manchester City want to win the Champions League. Manchester United want to win all those. Only one team can win it at one time.
And all I want us to do is to try as hard as we can to be that one team. If we use our resources effectively for that purpose and we fail, I will put my hands up and say I'm happy that we tried.
Well, you've got to factor in, though, Mo. You're an accountant, so you should realise that when you're fighting against teams that have got a bottomless pit, it's going to be very, very difficult unless you assemble a squad that is good enough to compete against them, it's going to be very, very difficult to win those trophies. Now, Arsene Wenger at Arsenal, he realises that we can't go and give the 60 or 70 million pound for players like the Real Madrid have done and the Barcelonas and of this world and Man City, right? He's going to, I mean, when Man City started spending, it still took them 2 or 3 years, right? When Chelsea started spending, it took them 2 or 3 years, right? Arsenal, it's only now, right, that we've had the spending power. We bought Ozil last year, we bought Alexis this year, and Welbeck, and Debuchy, okay? Arsene is slowly getting a team, he's assembling a team together to fight against the might of all their money and power, right? He's getting a squad together that could challenge on all fronts, like you want to, like I want to, like all Arsenal fans want to. But it's very, very difficult. You can't just do it overnight, Mo. And you're going to spend 150 or, I mean, we spent, the best part of £90 million this year. I really don't see what the big problem is. Arsene Wenger's the manager. You're an accountant. He's a football manager. He's a heavily decorated football manager, right? He's won every league he's managed in. He's won 3 Premier League titles, 5 FA Cups. He's been other cup finals galore. He managed the Invincibles team that won 49 games on the trot. No, but
you don't need to talk to me about Wenger because I love the guy. I do. Like, you don't need to convince me about Arsene Wenger.
Okay, well, is it Gazidis then? Because I remember you saying you can do a better job than Gazidis. Is that true? Do you think that?
You know what, Jeff? At the time, the level he was operating at, any one of us could have done a better job than him. The last 12 months have been brilliant for him. They've been his best 12 months of his tenure, and I'm delighted for him. The commercial deals that he's signed, some of the transfers that he's brokered, have been brilliant. I still don't think he's a polished article, but he's certainly starting to justify the money that he's on, and he's certainly starting to operate to the level that the chief exec of an institution like Arsenal should be at. Not perfect, still got some faults, but much, much better. At the time, he was well below par. And I'd be very surprised if someone asked even Gazidis to appraise his own performance at that time, whether he would have necessarily been happy. Because at that time, we had, out of the top 6 clubs, well, historically the top 6 clubs, because now Man United are 7th, the only club we had more commercial partners than was Tottenham. We had less than City, Chelsea, Liverpool, United, and City and Chelsea, they don't even need commercial partners. They've got an endless supply of money. Even Gazidis in the last 12 months has signed so many commercial deals. He's done such a great job in growing that side of the business. Now I'm satisfied with him. Now it's kind of crack on, improve again, see what you can do. At the time when I made that comment, he was terrible. So if, I'm sure you can apply context to a statement. In that context, he was terrible. Simple as that.
But maybe it was the circumstances that Arsenal as a club were in at that particular time. We've just moved into a stadium. Now that is a massive thing. I mean, there's other clubs that have tried it. I think it's 95%, I read a stat the other day. 95% of clubs up and down the leagues that have moved into a new stadium, they've been relegated in the next 3 or 4 years.
Yeah.
Right. And not only have we not been relegated, but we still have competed. Now, competed, in inverted commas, all right, we haven't won the league, we haven't won the Champions League, but we won the FA Cup last year, and we come very, very, very close to winning the league. One striker, maybe, away from winning the league, right?
So why didn't we sign that striker?
And at the time, well, we couldn't. The window was shut, and Theo was injured. You can't, how can you can't foresee that Theo was going to get injured and do his ACL. It's just impossible, right? Yeah. But at the time, right, it was a situation, the circumstances that Arsenal found themselves in. It's been well documented, right? We was a little bit strapped for cash, right? Yeah, and we had to just go along and be patient until the time came that we're standing in now, where we can get to that stage where we broke that 300 or getting up to that 300 mil barrier. Okay, yeah, okay, and now we can crack on. They haven't told any lies. They said this 5 years ago. You just have to wait. You just have to be patient. We've just moved into the stadium, blah, blah, blah. It will come. It will happen. Right? And Arsene Wenger, they said, was the man to do it.
I did not complain for the best part of 8 years. I've said that before. So I do not point the finger at Arsenal or Arsene Wenger and say it's rubbish, we need a trophy. I completely understand the landscape of the game and how hard it is to create a stadium like that and pay for it through self-sufficient means. Incredibly
I don't know whether you do, Mo, because I mean,
just no, I did, because no one heard me pipe up for 8 years. I only piped up when, off the back of my own analysis, I knew that the club can accommodate the expenditure that we need. And even you've said in your last sentences there that now we're at that level. So now if we can afford to do that, why the hell aren't we?
Mo, how many players short do you feel we are of challenging for the league or the Champions League?
2.
And how much would you have liked? I mean, what kind of expenditure would you? I mean, Tim Payton says there's 50 million in the bank. We should have spent it. Do you subscribe to that view, or do you think that we could have signed, I don't know, 2 players at 10 or 15 million each or whatever? What's your opinion? How would you solve that equation?
My opinion is that, as Jeff said, Arsene Wenger's a football manager. I'm an accountant. I'm not going to say who we should have signed. I'm not going to say how much we should have signed them for. I'm just saying that we should have filled them positions. If Arsene Wenger got Messi on a free, I'd be delighted. We don't have to spend 100 million on him. I don't care about the actual expenditure. I just wanted to get the caliber of players. And of course, generally, they attract the higher fees, like Alexis Sanchez. We've seen him come in and how brilliant he is. They do attract them sort of transfer fees. Of course, I think that we should have improved in these positions that we need to improve in and spent the money if it was required to do so, because I want to win trophies. Jeff has said he agrees that we're in that position. So then, if we're in that position when we can, I genuinely, for the life of me, do not understand why we haven't. And if we haven't, why is there a constant justification there? There's no kind of insult to Arsene Wenger if we say we should have bought a central defensive midfielder, we should have spent the money that was available to us. That's not taking anything away from Arsene Wenger. Everyone has got their faults. No one's perfect. So why can't we just admit that?
And to Jeff, I mean, do you feel that looking at it, do you think that we've left ourselves in a bit of storm, in terms of the defensive positions, or do you think that Flamini, Arteta can do a job in defensive midfield? Do you think that our defence, our central defenders, we've got enough quality there to sort of see us through?
Well, Chelsea are a powerhouse, yeah? We'll all agree on that. They've got 5 recognised defenders. Liverpool, they've got 7 recognised defenders. City have got 8. And Spurs have got 7. We're not a million miles away from, it's just, I don't really get it. I understand it, but I don't really get it. Arsene Wenger has assembled a squad. He sees the players in training every single day. And if he thinks Monreal is capable of doing a job at centre half, right, I'm not qualified to tell him that he's not. And nor is Mo. And nor are you, Giles. He can see what's going on daily at the club. I know for a fact that he wanted to sign, well, it's well documented as well. He wanted to sign a centre half, okay? But if that centre back is not available, he's not just going to go out and spend it just for the sake of it. We are not a Manchester City. We are not Chelsea. We can't buy players, test them, and if they're not good enough, we'll put them out on loan. 27 and 30 players have got out on loan, Chelsea and Manchester City. And that's going to come back and bite them on the arse with FFP. Along the way, Arsenal are not that club. We are still not that club. Although we've come into a few quid at the moment, we're still not that club where we can do that. We can't get these players in. They have got to be the absolute right player.
But Jeff, there's been a lot of players that we've had that aren't the absolute right player. Arteta, was he ever the absolutely right player for that central defensive midfield role? Is he that right player now?
Well, we purchased him at the time when we wasn't, we had to be prudent. We purchased him, it was lastminute.com when I think Cesc and Nasri
and that's my problem.
Went out of the door. You couldn't really do a lot about that. It was
we could. Jeff, I completely disagree. I'm sorry, mate. That was self-inflicted. You make a decision early on in the transfer window. Are these players going to go or not? If they go, you do it early, you do your business properly. If you make the decision they're not going to go, you flip and stick to your word. You do not have a last minute scramble. This is my issue with the way Arsenal run their transfer windows And this is why I think that we're borderline incompetent when it comes to transfer windows, because of the vulnerability we leave ourselves in with a week to go, with a day to go of the transfer window. I'm shocked that you can say that there's nothing we could have done about that, because we had that all in our control. At one point in time, Nasri and Fabregas were owned by Arsenal Football Club, and then we got rid of them, and then we waited, and we dithered and panicked at the end. It was all self-inflicted.
Well, it obviously wasn't in Arsene Wenger's plans that we lost Nasri and Fabregas in the same window. He obviously wanted those types of players, world-class players, what they are, to stay at the club. He didn't want it to happen. It just happened. It was a situation that, I think maybe if he'd made a mistake, he trusted them too much. Okay. He maybe took their word on it. Maybe he gave them a little bit too much respect and trusted them too much. Now, you can't really blame the old fella for that. We don't know. It's all, again, it's hearsay, isn't it? It's all, it's assumptions. We just assume what they're saying, and we don't know, right? But he was obviously happy enough at that particular time, even especially when he said Nasri and Fabregas will not leave at the same window. I mean, he must have had conversations with them at the time, and they'd been assured that, both of them, or they wasn't going to go together. But shit happens, Mo. We did the best at the time, in the short space of time, to recover, and I think he done a good job. I think Arteta has been a fantastic player for Arsenal Football Club. I really do. It's got us through to now. I think now is the time that, we can push on and sign someone better. But for the time he's been with the club, he's been a great servant. I don't see what the problem is.
Okay, Geoff, we haven't pushed on and got someone. You say up to now, but now he should have been replaced. He hasn't been replaced. That's the first point. So there's a criticism there. And you talk about Arsene Wenger and that he trusted the players too much. And yeah, I accept that. He probably did trust them too much. Ultimately, that has had a detrimental impact on the club. As I've said, I love Arsene Wenger, but I'm not blind in my defence of Arsene Wenger. Where he deserves some criticism, I will do that. I'll do it very respectfully, knowing what he's done for the club. He should and could have dealt with that much, much better and been a lot more firm with these players. Where, if he says you're not going to move in the same transfer window, you stick to that. Just to cast your mind back, he also said when we had signed Podolski and Giroud in the same transfer window that they are not replacements for Robin van Persie. Ultimately, he then came out after Van Persie was sold and said we already have our replacements. So we have actually been lied to. But I forgive Arsene Wenger for them lies. Because when he's in the media lying to us, he's not lying to me personally. He's doing his job as a football manager. He's making sure that we get the right amount in transfer fees for players. And he's managing people's expectations in terms of who's dealing with us. So when he says Fabregas and Nasri aren't leaving in the same transfer window, that drives a higher transfer fee for the second player to be sold out of the two of them. If he says I'm open to them both being sold, clearly a team knows that they've got more chance of signing a player. I personally don't believe a word Arsene Wenger says in the media, and I don't mean that in a negative way. I mean that in a very practical way, because what he says in the media is going to be picked up on by every single stakeholder the club has, including competitors and players and agents. And we will be exploited for more money if Arsene Wenger says the wrong things. So I don't pay any attention to what he says.
So Mo, we go back on the, if you don't think Arsene is to blame for the you spend, we spend thing, and you don't now believe that Gazidis is to blame for the you spend, we spend thing, have you made up your mind yet who is to blame?
No, Geoff, that's the thing. I'm not one of these fans that's going to blindly point to things I don't know. I'll only speak of things where I can sit here and truly back it up and give evidence that I have done in my argument so far to back my points up. I'm not going to randomly point blame when I don't actually know. All I can say factually, is that the club haven't struck the right balance.
In your opinion? That's in your opinion.
It goes back to the fact that we don't have the positions that we need. We don't have the cover that we need in certain positions, and we've got money in the bank. So then I don't really think it goes to opinion anymore. you know,
well, you agree that we're stronger this year than we was last year. But last year we were 7 points off of a top spot, and we won the FA Cup. I don't get it, Mo.
Okay, fine. So the way we've strengthened this year, if that bridges that 7 points fully, so now we're 7 points better than we were last year. Chelsea, I'm afraid, are 12 points better than they were last year. Man City are 10 points better than they were last year. You have to look at the context that you're in. And what we've done so far is not enough to win the Premier League, in my opinion. I hope that I'm wrong. I really hope that we do win it. But I always say the bookies are a very, very good guide on these things because they make a profit or they make a loss on the back of the decisions that they take. And because of that, they are free from bias. It doesn't matter who the hell they support, the people that price these up, they will come to the most likely outcome, and more often than not, they are right. You know, they'll obviously get the odd game wrong and that sort of thing, but over the course of a whole season, over the course of a cup competition, generally they priced it well, they priced it right. And you look at where Arsenal are, I want a signing that changes them odds. Simple as that. Geoff, you know, you've talked about the whole fact opinion thing. If you were to survey Arsenal fans, if you were to even, you know, look within yourself and be honest about who would do a better job in Arsenal's central defensive midfield position, Paul Pogba or Mikel Arteta, I think we all know the answer to that. So then when we've got money in the bank and we've got a player that isn't really cut out for that role anymore, you know, the answer's there.
Mo, this is not FIFA, mate. This is real football that you're dealing with. You have no idea whether or not Paul Pogba, 1, wants to leave Juventus, 2, if Juventus are prepared to sell him, 3, if Arsene Wenger would like to buy him, and 4, if he even wants to come and play for Arsenal. It's not about you. That's why you're an accountant and Arsene Wenger is a football manager.
No, Geoff, no, because your assumption there is that I think we can get him. And really all I did was reference an example. Simply that. I'm not saying that I think we can get him. I'm not saying that he wants to come to us. I'm not saying he's available. It's an example. That's all. And just a little one there. I'm sure you pronounce his name Pogba. I'm not sure if I picked up on that correctly, but I'm sure Claude will have a good old laugh at that.
I like it.
But I mean, Geoff, this time last year, would we have been saying Alexis Sanchez is definitely... We could have been arguing about Alexis Sanchez. Mo could have picked him from thin air, and you might have said this. I mean, we don't know, do we? You know, we do know we've got money in the bank, and apart from your Messis and your Ronaldos and your Bales, you know, there's not too many that aren't attainable. People say they're not on the market. Everyone's for sale. Everyone's saleable, isn't it? It all depends on how much you want to put down on the table.
Yeah, of course, but Arsenal at that club to go and spend £60 million and offer them £250,000 a week, we can't afford that, so we'll bust the club.
Exactly. Granted, I understand that. But I mean, in terms of other players that could do a job, you know, I mean, in your estimation, you've watched Arsenal for a very long time. Do you really think that Arteta and Flamini have the quality needed in that position? Do you really think that... I mean, Mertesacker's struggling. We don't know if he's going to be ready on Saturday. Koscielny's nursing his Achilles. We've got a 19-year-old kid with barely 30 games experience backing them up at centre-half. The squad has improved with the signings we've made, definitely, but don't you think... Have you not thought for one moment in the summer, or at the close of the window, yeah, we could have probably...
You'd always think about that though, Giles. I would like to sign everybody. I'd like to sign all the players, you know, all the best players. I'd like to sign. I want to come to Arsenal Football Club and play football for Arsenal, and we go and watch them. All right? But you know, you're talking in the real world. Arsene Wenger is definitely interested in signing. I don't get it. It's the same as this we spend thing last year. You know, I had a conversation. I said, Mo, we are going to spend. Just wait and see what happens. I'd say it again now. Just wait and see what happens. There is a reason why we haven't got the desired players that Arsenal wants at the club at the moment.
Geoff, I was brave enough to go on Arsenal Fan TV after Arsenal drew 2-2 with Swansea last season, which effectively completely ruled us out the title race. I was brave enough to go on Arsenal Fan TV and say, given the research that I've done, the analysis that I've done, I'm confident that Arsenal will definitely sign a world-class player in the summer. I was vindicated. Alexis Sanchez signed for Arsenal. I am not interested in that, oh, we will do it in future. I'm interested in doing it so that we win leagues. And, you know, I appreciate you're saying that we will spend money, but the fact of the matter is we already should have. We're not waiting for this cash to appear in the bank.
Mo.
It is there.
Mo, signing Mesut Ozil, signing Alexis Sanchez doesn't guarantee you winning anything at all.
Yeah.
That is it at the end of the day. You've seen the Galacticos before. They've failed miserably. You've seen the Barcelona team with all their wealth. They've failed miserably. You know, Manchester United, you see Tottenham last year spending £120 million.
Yeah.
They're the last hurrah to get into the Champions League before they go up for sale. They failed miserably. It doesn't guarantee you anything. It's not only about the quality of player. It's about the temperament and their mentality.
Jeff,
You
we're discussing things that no one has brought to the table. I'm not talking about any of that. I'm just saying that
you've got to factor it in though, Mo. You know, you can't, you know, everyone will say, well, let's go and buy Balotelli. You know, what you want to, that hothead, bring him into the club and disturb. It took 3 years for Arsene to get the little clink
characters,
away from Arsenal Football Club. Why on earth? Fantastic player, right? I think he's fantastic, Balotelli. Why on earth would he want to bring that player in and take a chance on upsetting the group that he's got there? It's not, that's what I'm saying to you. It's not only about, you know, the talent that these lads have. You know, it's about them coming to London, the Premier League. They've got girlfriends and wives and family. Are they going to settle in? It's just not, it's not Football Manager, mate, honestly.
Sure, but I never claimed that. I never claimed that. All I've ever said...
But you make it sound so easy, it's not. Do you think, you know, he's decorated in honours and he's very educated, he speaks 6 different languages. Do you honestly believe for 1 minute that he's not intelligent enough to realise the players that we need?
Jeff, as I said, I don't know who is at fault here. It may be Wenger, it may be someone else.
See, the thing is with you, Mo, you've got all these questions, but you don't know any answers, mate.
Oh, Jeff, actually, the only thing that I've actually said I don't know about is this. Anything else
you don't know about a lot. You don't know about a lot.
No, Jeff, anything else I've answered, and I've backed it up.
Okay,
this is the sole issue that I'm not going to point a finger on because I'm humble enough to accept that I don't know.
Okay.
And Jeff, you're answering a lot of questions that aren't being asked here. No one is talking about players' temperaments or players' wives and girlfriends. All I'm saying is that we've got resources. We need to use them effectively to win trophies for the football side of our club.
All right, Mo. All right, let me put this question to you. Do you really? I mean, why do you think the club are leaving money in the bank? I mean, I had a conversation on Twitter today, and people were saying, you know, the club's leaving money in the bank so that we can protect the investment, and we're not doing all we can with the funds available. Why do you think that we haven't gone out and bought, you know, done as much as we can with our money?
Yeah, I really struggle to see a logical reason for it, G, to be honest with you.
So you don't know?
But it comes back to the same issue. Why are we not using our resources effectively? I don't know who's to blame. But that's
your opinion, Mo. That's your opinion. With respect, that is your opinion, and you don't know.
Okay, listen. It's not opinion, because leaving our money in the bank is not an effective use of resources. This is why well-run FTSE 100 companies do not leave loads of money sitting in the bank. There might be some capital requirements set by the FSA or whatever, but ultimately they'll stick them in bonds, they'll invest them, they'll do something with them, they'll make the capital they've got, they'll make the money they've got work to generate returns for the business.
Mo, the football business is totally different to any other business, Mo.
But you can still buy government bonds and get a better return than what the interest on your bank account will get you, Jack.
Okay,
that's a fact.
So we've got to buy government bonds. Where does he play?
There you go. So I agree with you, Jeff. I'd rather get the players, and that's what I mean. We're not using our resources effectively, and to use them truly effectively is got to come back to footballing reasons.
Okay,
we could be doing a hell of a lot of things without money in the bank. The best thing we can do is spend it on players.
All right, let me ask you guys a question. This is a topic that was brought up to me whilst I was having a conversation on Twitter today. Do you think Wenger is made accountable for his actions? People were saying to me, somebody suggested to me today that if with somebody like Usmanov in place, then Wenger and whoever would be held more accountable for their actions, he would make the club spend that bit more, or be that much more ambitious in trying to challenge and fight for league titles and Champions Leagues. I'm going to ask you first, Mo, and then Geoff, you could step in and come in with your answer.
I don't think that Arsene Wenger necessarily has the challenge that he needs, given that he hired Ivan Gazidis. He was crucial in hiring Ivan Gazidis. That isn't generally the way it should work. If you're going to be reporting to someone, you do not hire them. You are not in that decision. So, does Gazidis present enough challenge? Yeah, given that evidence, potentially not, but we're not in the club, so we can't say that for sure. And, the Usmanov factor, again, he's not in the club. That would all just be speculation. There's some things that no one will know. Even people in the club will not know whether it would be any different if Usmanov was there. So it's a sort of question that, I think the only logical answer is to say that it's just an unknown.
I just don't get it. I think we're a fantastically run football club. We're plodding on nicely. I would like to win all the trophies all the time. That is not possible, right? We've just gone through a massive ground move. Very, 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 plenty of bottle. Tottenham, Liverpool, they've all been toying with it, but they haven't got the bottle to do it, because I know over that 10 years, that 10-year time span, they're going to drop out of it, mate. Because it's very, very, very difficult. Arsenal had the bottle, the foresight. They went ahead with it. Okay, we've now come out the other end of it. Now
exactly.
we're on an even keel, right? And things are slowly changing. We're not financially doped. We can't just go and invest £3-4 billion into the infrastructure where you can just buy all the players, right? Anyone, they can do that, of course, but that's going to end somewhere along the line, whether it be 10 years, whether it be 20 years, that is going to end somewhere along the line, right? Arsenal, they're like the MCC of football. They're run properly, okay? Everything's above board. They play to the rules. They're adhering to FIFA, this FIFA fair play, the financial fair play, I beg your pardon, okay? Where other teams have clearly flouted it. Arsenal are not like that. But
we're not getting the balance right, Geoff. That is well and true, but we are not getting the balance right. Simple as that.
So who's to blame then, Mo? Because you've not answered it.
That point is irrelevant. It seems like you're going on that point because that's the only thing I can say I don't know to. But that point is actually irrelevant. The fact of the matter is we're not getting the balance right.
But that's in your opinion.
Who's to blame is irrelevant. What's going to change if I have a flipping epiphany and I figure out who's to blame? What is going to change?
At least then we can pinpoint who it is, and maybe you could do your promotion to get that person out, and you get into the job.
Well, Geoff, I know that it's someone in the club, right? And I tried to do something about that. I tried to communicate with someone in the club by whatever means I could, and unfortunately I wasn't able to do that. I've done my bit. I did try. I don't know whether it's Arsene Wenger, I don't know whether it's even Gazidis, but what I did know is that it would be someone there that would be in the audience. And I tried to do my bit. But you're the one that's in the know, Geoff. You tell me who's to blame.
Well, I'm not saying that anyone is to blame for this. I think the club is being run perfectly well at the moment.
Not perfectly well.
We can only do what we can do. Right? We can't, like I said, we can't go and blow the money on all these players because we haven't got that structure behind us. But in time, Wenger will build a side that will be able to compete. I'm 100% sure of it.
Yeah, sure. I just don't want it to be 10 years without a Premier League. I'd rather it was done sooner rather than later. If we've got the resources, why wait? Why not do it now?
United went 20 odd years. Liverpool are still in 20 years. Tottenham are 50 years and counting.
All irrelevant.
Chelsea went 50. Well, it's not irrelevant.
You're talking
about 10 years. It's a shame that you were spoilt by Arsene Wenger when he first come to the club. That's a shame, because. If you'd have been through the lean spells that I had, right, maybe you'd appreciate this a little bit more, and you'd accept what they're doing is the right thing. Arsenal.
I've been through the lean spells, mate, and also my point is I do not look at the failures of other clubs as a justification for the failure of my club. I've got no interest in what other clubs are doing. I want what's best for my club, given the landscape and the context within which my club operating. So I don't give a crap if Chelsea went 100 years without winning anything. I want Arsenal to maximise their chances of success. and we're not doing that. So all the other things you've just mentioned are irrelevant to our current situation.
Okay, all right. Let's move it on a little bit. Coming into, if we get to January, Geoff, do you see Wenger supplementing the squad with new personnel, possibly?
Absolutely, 100% absolutely. If the right players come along and they are available and they're prepared to come to Arsenal Football Club, he'll definitely be interested in them. There's no doubt about that. He's not stupid. He's a very intelligent man. He knows that we maybe are a little bit short on what we need to compete on all fronts, but he's just not going to go out there and spend it wildly and take a chance. We're not that club anymore that just needs to take a punt. Plus, at the same time, maybe he's got belief in the squad that he's got there. Maybe he does see something in them youngsters. Maybe he does believe in maybe Monreal. I mean, it's very unlikely that we've got 4 defenders out at one time. You know, it's only, I think it happened when we A2, didn't it, at United,
yeah.
Right? But it's very, very unlikely that it's going to happen again. You know, I know you need a strong squad, but maybe he's the manager. He can see what's going on every single day. Maybe he sees in them youngsters that are coming through that maybe they can come in for 1 or 2 games when there is injuries. And that's how you breed these. That's how you bring these young lads in. Who's to say that Chambers can't come in and play for 10 games? Who's to say, Monreal can't switch to a left-sided centre-back for 3 or 4 games and do a game? You know, it's the big games that really count, okay? We've got other issues rather than the absolute issues at defence at the moment.
Okay. Mo, what's your take? Do you think that we'll strengthen again? I mean, at 25th of April in 2004, he's asked, do you think we'll strengthen in regards to the defensive positions and also possibly buy some cheaper players? In the last year of the contract, he's given an example of Ishida, Nigel de Jong, Fabian Schär, Khedira. Are you confident? Do you have a good feeling about us probably doing something in January? He's not averse to doing something in January.
Yeah, of course, but when I set up Youth When We Spend, it was on the basis that with Arsenal, you never know. You know, you just actually never know what we're going to do. I remember as a kid going down, checking CFAC, seeing that we'd signed Sol Campbell, signing Arshavin, signing Jose Antonio Reyes. Arsenal pull things out the bag, and sometimes we do absolutely nothing at all. You just never know with Arsenal. So I can't sit here and say that we're going to do something or we're not. I just don't know. I just hope that we do the right thing.
Yeah, but do you think we are, though, Mo? In your opinion, do you think if there was the right player coming along, do you think Arsene Wenger would sign him?
Of course, yeah. If the right player came along, Arsene Wenger would sign him. I do think that. But then I also think that we don't have that ruthless streak that we used to have when David Dein was at the club. I'm sure you're going to be aware of this, Geoff, but David Dein has gone on record as talking about the Sol Campbell transfer, and it was actually him that pushed for it. Arsene Wenger didn't actually have the fight to get Sol Campbell off of Tottenham and compete with Barca, Real, Juve, Inter, all of the clubs that were in for him. And David Dein took that fight forward, and he was the person that made Sol Campbell sign for Arsenal. And I do think, are we missing that element now in our club? It was said about David Dein that he had the biggest contacts book in football. He was the person that brought Arsene Wenger to the club. He made sure that he took him out for dinner when he was passing through the country, spoke to him and then took him out for dinner the next time he came in the country. And he was the one that went to the club to say, let's get Arsene Wenger, when the managerial vacancy became available. And Arsenal decided to go for Bruce Rioch. Then he went back to the club and said, let's get Arsene Wenger. He was ruthless about the way he would go about things, and it gave us results. And I just wonder, do we have that ability to do that anymore?
He also brought Stan Kroenke to the club, though, Mo, who a lot of people, are angry with.
Yeah, I recognise that, but
really?
he actually sided with Kroenke. He wanted Arsenal to get Kroenke in, and then he actually changed tact and went for Usmanov, but ultimately wasn't able to get in the board or have anything come of that.
Do you think that football's moved on from that time somewhat? From everyone seems to they speak of David Dein with great nostalgia, but I mean, the power brokers in football seem to be the super agents, to me. more so than, I mean, Kenyon's left, hasn't he? I don't know what he's doing now, but he's not there anymore.
He's working with Jorge Mendes.
Exactly. He's not an executive. Exactly.
Yeah, brokering the biggest transfer deals that occur every single transfer window.
He's based in Jersey, isn't he? We all know he's based in Jersey now.
He could see where the dollars were, mate. That's where he could see.
Exactly. You know, Martin Gill's gone off, you know, and so on and so on. David Gill, should I say, has gone off, and so on and so on. So has football, Geoff, do you think football's moved on from 10 years ago, or whenever, you know, when Dean was in his pomp?
Of course it has. It's a totally different landscape. Absolutely. You know, that's why I don't think George Graham could manage a team nowadays. I'm not sure that David Dean coming back, I'm really not sure. I'm not sure David Dean coming back would have any different effect than what we're running the club at the moment. I'm not sure, really not sure, because like you say, it's the super agents that seem to be, you know, running the game at the moment with all the players that they've got on their book. There's a third party agreements thing. You know, it's totally moved on. It's a totally new game of football that we're seeing nowadays.
I do agree that, you know, the face of the game has changed, and that's why I kept silent for 8 years, because that was Arsenal putting in a plan to compete with the changing face of football, and it had to be done. For those clubs that haven't done it, they're left behind, and Arsenal did it so we can compete at the very highest level, and that is a brilliant achievement from Arsenal's point of view. But in terms of David Dean, when a man is the vice chairman of the FA and is an exec in your club, that is the sort of thing that does you some flipping favours. You know, let's not take anything away from David Dean's abilities and his contacts and his knowledge of the game. He could come in, even though he's 70, and still do a job at Arsenal. Absolutely.
But Mo, aren't we complaining that there's too many old relics at Arsenal? You know, and yet still we want to see an old relic come back and do a young man's job.
If the old relic that comes in is Arsenal through and through, bring him in. But Stan Kroenke, even Gazidis, they are not.
Geoff, you was going to make a point?
So, Stan Kroenke and Gazidis, you don't think they're doing a good job at Arsenal?
They are keeping Arsenal healthy as a commercially run entity, definitely, but they are not delivering the footballing ambition that Arsenal fans crave and that our club should be aiming for.
Well, what are they craving? What are we craving, Mo?
Well, that's the thing. Has Stan Kroenke ever been clear with his intentions about what he's craving at Arsenal?
But what are we craving, though, Mo? What are we craving?
I'm craving trophies. I'm craving success. Okay. I'm craving the things that Arsenal were created for in 1886. Okay, Stan Kroenke has never, ever been clear about his intentions with the club. We don't know what his exit strategy is. That's the one biggest worry I have about our club. What is Stan Kroenke's exit strategy? Who's he going to sell us to? What's he going to do with it? Does anyone know the answer to that?
Well, that's a totally another debate, isn't it? You know, that we could go on.
We're talking about David Dean. We're talking about Usmanov, and we're talking about what we've currently got. And you know, you're right, Geoff. It is another debate. But in terms of what I want for Arsenal, I want trophies. But we don't know what Stan Kroenke wants. And this is why I don't know where to place blame. Because Stan Kroenke has never actually been clear about this.
Geoff, do you have a problem with Stan Kroenke making certain promises, like, you know, coming to see the supporters and whatnot, and coming to meetings, but never actually delivering on it? Do you have a problem with him taking out, paying his, having his company paid $3 million for doing some sort of advisory and I don't know, whatever due diligence work for Arsenal broadband and whatnot? I mean, he's taken out dividends. We always knew that was probably going to happen at some point, but he did say to us that wouldn't, or intimate that wouldn't happen. Well, you see, sadly, football is now a business. It's not like it was years ago, where, you know, it was a community. It was a community thing where you take the kids down to see the football every single week, and the players was £100 a week, and, you know, that was getting a little bit more than the average pay. Don't get me wrong, but it wasn't that great big gulf that you see now. And it's a business now. It's a massive business. You see obviously the money that TVs are paying now. It's gone through the roof. Now, he's a businessman. He's spent a lot of money on Arsenal shares. Spent a lot of money in the club to buy the club. And ultimately, as a businessman, he is going to take some money out of the club any stage. You know, now the £3 million that's come out,
it leaves a little bit of a bad taste in the mouth because of the 3% rise in the ticket prices, and it just so happens to be it works out £3 million, and everyone's going on the fact that that's the £3 million from the fans are going to pay. But you have got to be realistic, and he's a businessman. He is going to take dividends out whenever they need to take them out, or whether they think that suits possible. You're a club that's turned over £3 million, and if he's taken £3 million out, they turn over £300 million. I beg your pardon. If he's taken £3 million out this year, let's hope he doesn't do that every single year now.
Just a quick point.
Sorry, mate. I just wanted to make mention that it was at JV Gooner. That was his question. I want to ask you.
Can I just
go for it. Go on.
Giles, sorry to interrupt, but
right.
It wasn't actually a dividend, and this is the issue that a lot of people are having. It was just taken out of the club. Dividends can only be paid after profits. So there's a big difference here. If Stan Kroenke is setting the precedent of taking money out of the club, it means he can actually make the club make a loss when he takes money out of the club. I'm not saying he'll ever do that, but dividends by law, you can only pay out of profits. So you have to pay all of your operating expenses, all of your finance charges, and all of your tax, everything, to get to that final net profit figure out of which you can pay dividends. The fact that Stan Kroenke has taken money out of the club before that is something I'm not thrilled with. And also, imagine how Alisher Usmanov feels, owning close to 30% of the club. He didn't get a penny, yet the other majority shareholder got money out of the club.
Can I ask you, boys? Sorry, Mo. Can I ask you boys a question? The start of last season. If he said, "Listen, we're going to win the FA Cup this year, but I'm going to take £3 million out," would you have accepted that?
It's an irrelevant question, Geoff. This is hypothetical. I don't see what purpose this question serves, to be honest with you.
Okay. If he give you a choice...
They're completely unrelated. It's not one or the other.
But me personally, I would say, if he said, "I'm going to take £3 million this year, but I'm going to guarantee we win the FA Cup this year," if he said right now, today, "I'm going to take £3 million out, but I'm going to win the FA Cup again this year," I would say go for it. £3 million, because it's not cost me £3 million. It might cost me a little 3% on my ticket prices. 30 quid, I'll pay that.
I mean, it's
would you pay that, Mo? You spend, we spend. Would you pay that?
I'm happy to pay my season ticket, provided that we put the money that we pump into the club to good use. And ultimately, Geoff, I know that I'm not strong enough to say, look, I'm not going to buy a season ticket because I love the club too much. But I feel that's what is being exploited here, is fans' love and loyalty to the club. Stan Kroenke is showing signs that I'm not comfortable with. He hasn't been clear about his exit strategy as an absolute major point. He's taken money out of the club, not through dividends, but through above the line methods, the line of net profit. Not only that, he's put his son in as a non-executive director, which is absolutely unacceptable. Non-executive directors, if you actually research what they're meant to do, they're meant to objectively challenge and advise the managing directors, the managing executives within the club, and they're meant to do that in a completely objective manner. How you can do that when your father owns a club, I don't see.
You're doing it again. You're mudslinging, right? But you don't.
This is all factual, Geoff.
Yeah, no, but you are mudslinging. You are mudslinging though. You're more or less saying that the boy is not up to the job, but you don't really know the job he's doing.
No, but Geoff, I know what the definition is of a non-executive director, and that is to be objective without any conflict of interest.
Yeah, but you don't know he's not being objective.
No, but he has a conflict of interest.
But you don't know he's not being objective.
No, but a non-executive director, the advice is that they should, and this is, that you look at the top accountancy firms, the advice they issue in regards to hiring non-executive directors, they should not have a conflict of interest. Josh Kroenke has a conflict of interest. This is not mudslinging, this is fact.
But you're thinking, I get your feeling is you don't think he's capable of doing a job.
No, not at all. I trust the accountancy firm.
I must be lost.
No, I trust the accountancy firm's definition and their advice on what a non-executive director should be, and how they've got to that is based on the fact that if you have a conflict of interest, you may find yourself in a situation where it's harder to make the right decision. and he has a conflict of interest. You
All right.
cannot argue
But
with that.
we don't know yet, though, Mo, that that's going to come to play, though, do we?
Not at all, but you protect yourself from it ever coming into play by following the advice given to you by objective and professionally qualified people.
So that's advice, but it's not in law. It's not law abiding.
Not at all,
Otherwise, they would have objected to it. They wouldn't have allowed.
If we go and win the league this year or the Champions League, you're going to sound like a right fucking idiot this time next year. You know that, don't you?
Why is that, Jeff?
Because obviously what you're saying is you don't think that Josh Kroenke is going to be capable. That's what you're saying, more or less. You don't really think he's.
Not at all.
You think there's a conflict of interest, and because of that.
I'm saying that Josh Kroenke. No, I'm not saying that because of that we're not going to win the league. I'm saying because of that, the running of the club could be affected. Simple as that. I want the club to run in an absolutely perfect manner. I don't want any nepotism in our club. And unfortunately, we've seen signs of that.
Do you know that it's not being run?
There's signs, like taking money out above the line, like employing your own son. There's signs that I'm not comfortable with. And it's our duty, it's my duty as a stakeholder of the club, to call these things out. Because ultimately, I don't want to be one of these ill-informed people that bitch and moan afterwards.
Well, you just do it before it's happened. That might not happen. That's even worse.
What I'm doing now is what any shareholder of any entity would do. You call out the problems before they happen. This is just common sense. Everyone does this in their day-to-day life. If you see that your kid is missing school, you start fearing the bad grades. As a parent, for example, and you do something about it. It's just common sense, Jeff.
But it's all hypothetical. This last year when you done the you spend we spend thing, okay. Since then we spent £90 million. What exactly did you spend?
Jeff, we've spent £90 million, but we haven't used our resources effectively.
And what did you spend, though?
Right, fine, I'll tell you that. I actually made my decision too early. That, okay, I've got faith in the club and they are doing the right thing. They're running the transfer window in the right way. And I made the decision too early. I thought that we would strengthen more than what we did. I went to the club shop. I spent the best part of... I spent about 300 quid in there. I took my 2 sisters. I took my other half. I took my nieces and my nephews. And I adorned them all with Arsenal kits, hats, dummies, socks, everything. I spent a lot of money in there.
So it was pointless then, because you've gone against your own belief.
No, I admit I was at fault for making my decision too early.
Well, that's why it was a load of old rubbish then, Mo, wasn't it? That's the point of this conversation.
No, Jeff, no, that's incorrect. Because I'm saying that
you contradicted yourself, Mo. You tried to get everybody in the Arsenal community to believe in your whatever you want to call it, right? I still think you was just attention seeking at the time, Mo, but that's for another debate, right? Yeah. But you've made everybody, tried to group everybody. Oh yes, listen, this is what we've got to do, and we've got blah blah blah, and you've just totally gone against that by going and knocking your readies out in the club shop when you shouldn't have done.
Not at all, Jeff, because I admit that I was wrong. I made the decision too soon, but I thought, you know what? We've signed Sanchez, we've signed Debussy, we've signed Espino, we've signed Chambers. We're actually doing things properly now, and I bought into it.
So you think that? So ultimately, then you think that you spend weeks to them was a little bit premature, because I don't get what you're.
No. My decision to end it was premature.
Oh, you buckled.
We spend was bang on. In hindsight, we've proved it because we haven't strengthened as much as we should have.
But you bottled it.
You can use the terminology bottled it. I misjudged it. I misjudged it.
Oh, you misjudged it. Okay, so you was wrong and you misjudged it.
I misjudged the fact that we were strengthening to the level that we should have.
You agree that you was wrong.
About what, Jeff? Be clear about what you think I misjudged.
Well, that's what I'm just using what you said. You said you was.
Okay, so let me complete the sentence. I misjudged the fact that Arsenal was showing the right level of ambition that us fans crave. We didn't show that level of ambition. We didn't.
That is your opinion.
We have gaps in the squad. We have money in the bank.
You said you wasn't going to spend. You tried to get how many thousands? You said, listen, let's go about this. We should go there. We put a sign up. We won't spend any money until you spend, right?
Yeah.
As soon as you get out of the ground, you go and knock 300 quid out in the club shop.
No, that's not true. That's not true, is it, Geoff? You're making stuff up. You know, using terminology such as soon as you go out of the ground, you know, you're trying to basically strengthen your argument through the use of, you know, false claims. False claims. I did this in May. We spend in May. After that, we bought a world-class player. We bought a Premier League right-back. We bought a highly fancied goalkeeper, you know, a very good goalkeeper, and we bought a really good youth prospect. And I was incorrect in thinking there's more to follow. That was my fault. And I'm putting my hands up and accepting that actually I should have stuck with You Spend, We Spend. I never should have bought the Puma kit. And I should have stuck to my guns. And I should have waited until the club did everything possible. But I bought into it. I was suckered into the fact that the club are spending the money, they're doing it early, and I thought, you know what? They're doing the right thing. And I was wrong. We didn't do enough.
Your opinion?
Jack, in May, when the league champion is decided, I'll come back to you and tell you whether I was right or wrong. But so far, I've been proved right. With hindsight, I've been proved right.
So you don't get nothing in September, Mo?
Oh, I accept that, Geoff, and I hope I'm wrong. I really do.
Okay, all right. Let's move on to other matters now. I think we've done that now to death. Last night's game, League Cup, we went out 2-1. We put out a decently strong attacking unit, whereas the defensive unit was somewhat inexperienced. Mo, what did you make of the game? Are you that bothered are you disappointed that we win out, or do you think?
I'm always disappointed to lose. Always disappointed to lose. I wanted us to do better. I wanted certain players to do better. But then, you know, it wasn't a priority. And I'm not going to beat myself up about it too much. For me, if we win the League Cup and nothing else in the season, it's still failure. For me, the absolute minimum that a club like Arsenal should be aiming for is an FA Cup at the absolute minimum every year. You know, I want more than just an FA Cup, but as an FA Cup is what will satisfy me. A League Cup is not enough in itself anyway. So had we won the League Cup this year and nothing else, I wouldn't be satisfied. So, you know, I wasn't overly bothered.
All right, Geoff, what was your take on last night? I mean, was there signs of encouragement?
I was disappointed. Like Mo says, you know, any game Arsenal lose, you're going to be disappointed. I was disappointed. I honestly believed that the team that we put out last night was capable of beating Southampton. I was a bit disappointed in the way we played. I don't think we really had a proper go at them. But at the same time, it's all about prioritising. And, you know, we was in for 3 tournaments this season, and the League Cup, as what we used to call it, was the lowest of the priorities. And, you know, were you really going to go on and have all those games, you know, if we are short, having the backlog and quarterfinals and semi-finals to deal with in the League Cup? I think it's the lesser of all the evils, if you get what I mean. If you're going to go out of a cup, maybe the League Cup is the best one to go out of. And it might be a blessing in disguise. You never know. Okay.
Were there let me see this question now. One guy's asked, what's his name? His name is at K. Morohan. He asks, thoughts on the prospects of someone like Hayden being a 4th choice centre-back, Geoff? Would you rate him?
Well, you know what? I was impressed with Hayden last night. I think he done a decent job. I think the defence played all right last night. You know, I was a little bit disappointed with the goalkeeper. You know, as a goalkeeper, I played a lot of football in my time, and when the ball gets shot from 25 or 30 yards out and it goes in the middle of the goal, a goalkeeper has got to look at himself. And I think the one thing he had to do last night was the one thing that he did impress during the World Cup was his shot stopping. And unfortunately, I think that moment where the ball just flew over his head, I understand that the ball moves in all directions nowadays, but I think that he should have stopped that, if I'm being honest with you.
All right. Also, I was there at the game last night, and from what I saw, and from what a lot of people saw, Lucas Podolski was either disinterested or just wasn't any benefit to the team. So far, this season, he's been in ahead of someone like a Joel Campbell, who, although didn't set the world alight last night, did show signs of there being a player in there somewhere. Mo, in your estimation, where do we go with someone like Lucas Podolski? I mean, people say he's got a cracking left foot, but for me, he hasn't got a trick in the book. Can't play up front. Has to play in a two-man formation, which we're not really going to play. He doesn't beat his man on the wing. He doesn't run the channels. That's my estimation. What's your take on him? I mean, should he rightly be demoted down at the pecking order?
Well, not on the basis of one game. It's 90 minutes. I just think we should keep a bit of perspective. Podolski adds to Arsenal. He is probably the most clinical finisher at our club. We can use his strengths to our benefit. So, I just don't want to go off on the basis of one very poor performance, granted, but, let's not.
Is it just one performance though? Is this not the culmination of, quite a few on-off, hot and cold performances? Is he the player that we thought we were going to get when we signed him in 2012 or whenever it was?
Potentially not, but I don't think it's been as bad as people are making out. Because of what happened yesterday, people are vilifying him. And I just think, give it a bit of time. He hasn't been as bad as people are making out. With that fresh in people's minds, their making out has been much worse than what he actually has been. So I just think, relax a bit. Next week he might, on Saturday he might come on in the 70th minute and score the winner against Tottenham, and we'll all be raving about him, talking about how great his finishing is. I just think it's all a bit too reactionary at this stage.
Jeff, what's your take on Podolski?
I had doubts, to be honest with you, before he even signed Lucas Podolski. I got pelters on Twitter at the time. I said that, I'd seen him in maybe 30 or 40 games for Germany, and didn't really see a lot coming from him apart from a few goals. Don't get me wrong, goals wins you games, but Arsenal in the Premier League, unfortunately, you've got to do a little bit more than just, get the odd goal every now and again. I don't think he's quick enough about the pitch. I don't think he gets about the pitch. His work rate is not good enough. He doesn't get up and down. He doesn't support the fullback when he's playing on the left-hand side. And, I think Arsenal moved into that stage now where Lucas Podolski, nearly give one for Claude there, didn't I? Lucas Podolski, yeah. I'm not sure he's going to be good enough for Arsenal's first team any longer. I think he'll move out in January, and we'll bring maybe somebody else in.
All right. Mo, you wanted to ask a random question, didn't you, for Jeff?
I did want to ask you a random question, Jeff. Jeff, tell me, if Match of the Day called you on to discuss Arsenal and do a special segment, would you go? Would you do it?
I've had Sky Sports call me up before. I've had other TV companies call me up before or contact me before to go on TV. I've got absolutely no desire to go on TV, Mo.
So why is that, Jeff? What's the fear?
We'll think about it. I'll tell you for why.
Can I ask let me just answer the question. Ask the question fully. Sorry, because today on Twitter you criticised Claude. You took the mick out of him for his pronunciation of a couple of player names. And whilst a lot of people would say to Claude, fair play, you've actually put your face in front of the camera and had the courage to go and speak your mind. You, on the other hand, on Twitter, refuse to go on Arsenal Fan TV. You refuse other opportunities. Yet then you also criticise someone like Claude, where he may have a bit of difficulty pronouncing some name. You don't know his background. You don't know his mother tongue. You don't know anything about him. Yet, in my opinion, you made some very, very harsh comments, and I said this to you earlier on Twitter as well. And,
I called him a tool. It was very, very tummy.
No, it's not
everyone's got to lighten up a little bit,
It's not the tool thing, Jeff.
Believe me and you have had a lot more abusive comments on Twitter than that. We all need to lighten up a little bit. And with regards to going on Arsenal Fan TV, I think Robbie or I think it might have been Coogan Cassius contacted me ages ago and said, will you go on Arsenal Fan? I said, listen, to be honest with you, I'd rather remain as anonymous as I possibly could for as long as I possibly can, because I won't get let into Colney anymore or the other places where I go. That's the only reason. I don't want my face, my ugly boat, believe me, it's not good to look at anyway, plastered all over.
Oh, come on, Geoff, you're a handsome man.
Yeah, I wish. Arsenal. I mean, I go to many AFC meetings. I meet people over at Arsenal all the time. But I have no desire. Right, I don't mind doing podcasts. I find it, I will talk Arsenal at 24 hours a day. But I've no desire to go on to a TV and talk about Arsenal like that. I've been invited on Arsenal, the real Arsenal TV, but I've got no desire to do that. That's the reason why.
Geoff, I'm man enough to admit when I've asked a question and someone's given me a comprehensive answer, I'm man enough to say, do you know what, fair play, I see your point of view, you've presented it in a logical way. What I wouldn't accept is if you weren't even willing to do podcasts, because that allows you to retain your anonymity. And fair play. You know, all I can say is I don't know what's in your head, and that answer checks out as far as I'm concerned. All I would say is that with the Claude issue, it wasn't the fact that you called him a tool. I thought that was quite mild. It was the fact that you took the mick out of his pronunciation. And, you know, I just think that was a bit embarrassing for the man, and you could have been a lot kinder.
That was, like I said, that was, I'll tell you what it was, right? It was maybe, what's the word I'm looking for? It was just, it was a reaction. No, certainly not. I'm definitely, if you'd meet me, you know, I'm definitely not a bully, honestly.
No,
it was a reaction on a reaction, if you get what I'm saying to you. Claude, listen, I've got utmost respect for him. He goes to Arsenal games, home and away. I've got no problem with his mother tongue and stuff like that. I just thought it funny at the time, the way he pronounced a couple of players that have been at the club for a long while. Okay. And it was, you know, I'd apologise to Claude shortly after by DM. I didn't mean no offence or anything like that. But it was very, very tongue in cheek, but people took it the wrong way. But what I was trying to say was, at the time, you know, why I reacted in the way I did was because Claude, God bless him, he keeps on fronting up Arsenal Fan TV, and all we seem to get out of him is the negative stuff. I think, you know, you'll be surprised that maybe some of the young lads look at social media, the 17, 18, 19-year-olds, they're all keen to just have a look quietly to see if people like them, if they don't like them, you know, are they getting criticised? And if you as a young player come across stuff like that, and him criticising the young, sticking 19-year-olds in the defence, blah, 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 that doesn't bode well with their progression into the team. And that's all I'm saying is, you know, let's think about things before you go on Arsenal Fan TV and start slating people, because I don't think that's fair.
Okay.
Fair enough. Okay.
Go on.
I'd just say that, you know, whilst that might be a valid point, what I find strange is just the fact that you try to pick up his pronunciation. But, you know, it's good of you that you've apologised for that. All I would say is that people are entitled to their opinion, and I thought it was a bit harsh. I found it quite distasteful. And let's not forget that, you know, you've sent out a tweet in the past saying that Ramsey's not good enough for Arsenal, you know? People have their opinion.
Let me cover that now. Let me cover that, because I've been lambasted this. It's had so many thousand retweets and everything else, which is fine because
you're big and ugly enough.
Yeah, no, I put myself on that social media platform. I'm big enough and ugly enough to take the criticism if it does come in. I was in a conversation at the time with someone that was, I didn't think at that particular time, it's 2 years ago now, mind you, right?
Yeah.
At that particular time, Ramsey and Walcott wasn't good enough to make it in an Arsenal team that won the Premier League or the Champions League.
Okay.
But you couldn't fit it into 146 or 147 characters. I think 99% of the people at that particular time would have agreed with me. But because it was shortened, it was Twitter and everything else, everyone thinks that I said, I mean, Ramsey and Walker have already made it at Arsenal at the time. You know, they'd played over 50 games each. So if you play 50 games in the Premier League for a team like Arsenal, you've made it as a Premier League footballer at Arsenal. You understand me? It's the ones that only play 1 or 2 games. So don't go running away with thinking I said that Theo and Ramsey was never going to make it at Arsenal. I was just saying at the time, at this moment in time, the way they're playing, Rambo and Walcott, they're not capable of playing in a Premier League winning team. And they wasn't at the time.
I've just pulled up your tweet, and it said Ramsey is not good enough for Arsenal at the moment, and I don't know if he ever will be, to be honest. And,
exactly.
Yeah, fair enough. Yeah, I mean, it's not ridiculous criticism. It's not personal criticism. My only point is, and the only reason I reference that is that sometimes people say things and you might not always agree with it. I don't agree with that. I never criticised Aaron Ramsey because of the context that he was playing in. Coming back from that injury, playing out of position, being so young, I don't think he deserved the criticism. You obviously thought he wasn't good enough for Arsenal at the time, and that's fair enough, that's your prerogative. What I wouldn't expect is for people then to give you abuse or give you any stick on a personal level. And I just felt that today with Claude, and I'll stick up for him because I know him personally, and also I know that he doesn't brush it off as well as maybe you or I do. I just felt that it was unnecessary personal. But it's, you've apologised, and that's the matter closed, I guess.
I called him the tool, mate. You honestly,
no, it's the pronunciation. It was a piss taking of the pronunciation. That's what it was. The tool.
Well, I didn't see it like that, to be honest with you. I just,
All right, Jeff's apologised, so let's.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, okay. Look,
good of you to do that.
All right, look, we've got a few quick fire questions from listeners that I want to rattle through. Shortest, quickest, most salient answers, please, guys. Let's start with. At CS Miller 20, he's asking, which of the younger players last night do you think will become a star in the team over the next 5 years? Mo?
Nathaniel Klein. I think he's a brilliant player. I think he's going to do very, very well. But in all seriousness, Isaac Hayden looked very, very good. I've still got a lot of hope for Joel Campbell. And Hector Bellerin, I think, he's got some facets to his game that can potentially lead to him being a brilliant, brilliant player. A lot to improve, but I think he's got some of the raw talent needed.
Geoff?
I'm honestly really not sure any of them can, again, we go back to the same thing again. I'm not sure that any of them can make it into an Arsenal team because at the moment we have got that, we've got the money available now to go and purchase these players that are kind of ready-made or, the players like Chambers that, well, you can see he's definitely got something. Hayden looked good. I've already said that earlier on. Whether he's going to progress, if he gets the games, it's game time. That's what the problem is. Are you going to get the game time at Arsenal? I'm not sure.
It's too early to make that assumption, isn't it? Really, at this point in time. Okay, right, cool. All right, moving on to at Todd Roberts 94. Who do you think will sell in the next transfer window plus summer? Geoff?
So, who do I think will sell?
In the next transfer window, I take it means, and summer.
Yeah, I think Podolski's on his way out, if I'm being honest with you. But I think Arteta is on it, maybe in his last season as a first choice.
That's right.
Again with Flamini. But again, we're that club now where we can go and purchase. We wasn't before. We had to just kind of make do with what we got.
Okay, Mo, same question to you.
Oh, do you know what? Jeff's in the know. I'm strictly out of the know. So
you're an accountant. You're an accountant.
Exactly. Yeah.
All right. Moving on quickly to at Mashida Mia, and he asks: Arsene Wenger plays players in different positions. Which player position would you change and why? Mo.
Ozil. Obvious one.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Cool.
Take him off the wing.
Okay, Geoff.
I just believe in the manager and what he's doing. He says that he sees the players on the training pitch every single day. I should imagine he can work out who can play where. Maybe, it's really difficult because that midfield position. I think we need a little bit more creativity. As well as I beg your pardon, I think we obviously do need a defensive midfield player, and Jack is a little bit more creative than a defensive midfield player. But I honestly do think Jack could, with a little bit of coaching, fit into that defensive midfield role really, really well.
Okay, all right. Here's another one.
I think he's the worst man for the job. I think he's, of all of the players we've got, he's one of the worst men for the job in that defensive midfield role. Okay. A defensive midfielder has to keep things simple. Jack does not. The defensive midfielder can't abide pressure. Jack does. He's got a lot of qualities, but they're not suited to that role, in my opinion.
Okay, look, at Touch Like Diaby asks, could Diaby be our holding midfielder? Mo.
Who knows? We haven't seen enough of him, have we? People compare him to Vieira because he looks like Vieira from a distance. It's just, I don't think that he's that specialist central defensive midfielder that we need. I would like us to sign someone that is proven in the role. I think DRB
Could he do a job for us this season if he stays fit in that position? He's
a better job than Arteta. Yeah, a better job than Arteta this season if he stays fit.
Jeff's?
I just fear for the lad. I just think there's so much broken in his body. You know, his biomechanics are all wonky, so to speak. I think he's just taken too many hits. Fantastic player. I love him. You see him last night. He's very graceful, isn't he? He gets the ball and he's always seems to have a little bit of time on the ball, and he just strokes it about. It'd be fantastic if we could keep him fit, and I would love it for the boy, because he's really gone through it. I know he gets paid well and everything else, but at the end of the day, he would play for nothing anyway. Let's all remember that.
Apparently, he doesn't take his full wage.
No, I hear that.
Okay, cool. All right, we've got at Clive P AFC. He asks, is it important to know your best team and system, or does variety make AFC hard to plan for? Jeff?
It's a squad game, isn't it? And you go into squad games with what you've got. You've got to factor in injuries, niggles, mental. It's so much. Wenger, I should imagine, in his experience of the game, knows his best team that he's got available for a particular game.
Mo?
Absolutely 100% yes, it is very, very important. It's absolutely crucial to know your best team. It's crucial to know your best system. But in terms of variety, that's also important, and it's also crucial to know your second best team and your plan B and your plan C. So the answer to both of them questions is yes, 100%, absolutely.
Okay, penultimate question. At CS Miller 20 again asks, was it a mistake not to loan out Campbell or Sonogo? Mo?
Yeah, I'd say so. I've always said that I want Arsenal players in their youth to go and do their education at Arsenal in their extreme youth. Like, Jack Wilshere's been at the club since he was 9. Then he went to Bolton. And then he learned his mistake. He learned from his mistakes there, and he got his experience there. That's what I want Arsenal to do. I want them to make their Premier League mistakes at a different club, but I want them to get the Arsenal education. So yeah, I want Campbell and Sonogo to go out and learn to benefit from playing in the Premier League, fighting at a team, and being in a squad where they have to prove themselves, and then come back to Arsenal as a more refined article.
Jeff?
Campbell has been out on loan for 4 or 5 years already. Now is the time. He's had a good World Cup. You saw, he lit up the World Cup a little bit, didn't he, the times that we saw him. Now is the time. It's make or break for him whether he's going to get an Arsenal career. Sonogo, we was caught between the devil and the deep blue sea where we didn't actually have if we'd have sent him out on loan before signing Danny Welbeck, we'd have definitely called for a white coat for Wenger because we'd have had no strikers to cover up. So, no, I don't think it was the best thing. I think it was timing. If we'd had Danny Welbeck earlier, then maybe he might have let him go on loan. But, at the time, no, definitely not.
All right, and final question before we talk about the North London derby is this. Jeff, I'm going to ask this to you, Quest. First, it's from Ishashak_Arsenal, and he asked, Jeff, is the Draxler interview that Mo did real?
Only Mo can answer that question, but I reckon it is.
Do you know what, guys? A few people, vast majority of people believe me, obviously. The Metro didn't believe me. But, some people did question it. And when the people that questioned it, I asked them, well, what incentive do I have for lying? And their response was Twitter followers and retweets. And my response to that is, that's a child's currency. I'm a grown man. I cannot take retweets to the bank. I do not care for them. If you think that's what my motivations are, you need to grow up. I don't deal in that child's currency.
Well, from what I'm told, Julian Draxler was definitely interested in a move to Arsenal Football Club.
I was told that from him himself.
And then I believe you, man.
There you go. All right. So quickly now, moving on, guys. Saturday, big one, isn't it? Big boy game, big balls game. Jeff, give us your prediction. What do you reckon? How do you see this one going?
No, I think we'll roll them over. It's going to be a little bit tight at first, because North London derbies, they're a great leveller, generally. But I just think we've got too much quality for them. I think Tottenham are all over the place. They've got a totally unbalanced team, whereas, that was the best thing about last season. We didn't sell anyone, I just think we're going to be way too strong for them. A prediction? I'm going to go 2-0, and I think Sanchez will score.
Mo.
I think 2-0. I think we'll win. I think it will be a cagey game, but I think our quality will shine through. I also think if Flamini plays, he will get a yellow card, which is an absolute given. And yeah, simple as that. I think we'll win. I expect to beat them.
Good stuff. All right. That about wraps it up tonight. I think the next part's going to be on the Burkout Wonderland. Is that right, Geoff and Mo?
I believe so. I think so. I don't know. I mean, have we got anything else to talk about? I'm not sure.
Well, yeah, I guess we didn't structure it very well. This became a very long one, but you know, you're a man of your word, Geoff, and you respected we had to respect the fact that we both have our own podcasts. And look, if you want me on at any time, I owe you one.
It's not my podcast, Mo. I'm only a guest. Like I am on this podcast here. I don't hire and fire.
He's so coy and so bashful, so modest, isn't he?
He's amazing.
No, it's been great having you on, Geoff. As always, you're always at hand to come.
It's a pleasure, mate. Oh, well, any time. I'm always available. And like I say, I love talking about Arsenal, whether it's good or bad. No problem.
Good man. And Mo, it's great to have you back. We're going to see you again after the Tottenham game. Is that right?
Yeah, I'll get a bit more regular, and you'll hear me from me after the game, yeah.
Good man. So right, so that's been an Arsenal Fan TV podcast. The War of Words Part 1 has been battled. You can decide on Twitter and social media, YouTube, wherever it is that you're going to hear it and listen to it. Catch them back again at another time at a later date. My name's Giles. They've been great. I'm going to say good night and thank you. God bless.